I even said to him, I would prefer not to go against you. But he's not hearing that. He's hearing, oh my God, I'm an option. And James, being in elimination, has a say. And it sounds like he wants to go against me.
Welcome back, friends, to another episode of Challenge Reality News, where we talk everything reality TV, including the challenge. We're talking about the latest episode of the Challenge USA, and today I have the lovely Tasha and I have James with me. Sadly, they were eliminated during the latest episode, but we're here now. We're going to talk all about it. How's it going, guys?
We're good. We're having fun. As sad as it is to be departing from the show, we're making light of this. We're having fun with this, and we're excited to chat with you.
Yes, and I would not have want to be eliminated with anybody other than the positive James. So it's sad, but I'm happy I'm with him.
Well, and one thing that I love about both of you is that you are both so positive, and that's why I was so bummed to see you go, because you kind of, there's, when it comes to reality TV, there's so much drama, and it's kind of good to have that escape. Yeah. And so seeing you two on TV, that was my escape. And Tasha, my first question is for you. You're coming from Survivor, beasted it out like no other. One of my favorite players on Survivor. What were some of the challenges for you coming on to your first season on the challenge?
Yeah, well, for one, I think I'm 8 years older. So I'm not as young as I was when I played Survivor. So that was a challenge in itself. But I will say, I wish I was more prepared for the rigors of the challenge. Like, I didn't bring protein shakes. I didn't bring energy bars. Like, I didn't fuel my body the way that I needed to. I just didn't know. Like, on Survivor, you're used to being like on empty and competing in challenges, but I wish I would have just been more prepared. And I'm a professional bodybuilder, and I was in the middle of training. So physically I was prepared. I just didn't do everything that I needed to do to sustain my physicality while on the show. So I would say that's my biggest regret.
Okay. And yeah, I feel like the challenge is just in itself a different beast, where you have to just hone all of your skills into just one bubble and just really go at it.
Yeah, I agree. And I watched the challenge, but until you're on the inside, you don't know that. But you know what? If I do it again, if they call me back, I guarantee you a different outcome.
I hope they call you back. They better call you back. James, from the start, you were battling for your life to stay in the game. And what I loved about you is you were kind of like the underdog. You were outperforming and you were proving all these people wrong. You won your very first elimination. My question for you is, you were in the Amazing Race Alliance, and it was just you and two other people. And I was just so confused about this, and maybe you can clear this up. And Tasha, if you know, maybe you can clear it up also. I just don't understand why people were after you guys, and it's only 3 of you. I just don't get how you guys were the threat. Do you know why people were targeting the Amazing Race Alliance, not going after Survivor or Big Brother, who have way more people?
Yeah, I honestly think it boils down to the format, the algorithm. I think as much as I appreciate what the algorithm did, and that's shaking up any sort of pre-existing relationships, especially like Big Brother 23, they have 6 people from the same season. It shakes up any sort of dynamic that you're bringing in from your previous shows. We didn't have the numbers. So whenever a team like Survivor or Big Brother was in power, Amazing Race just kind of seemed to be an option always if we weren't partnered with a show that was in power. I kind of wish that there were more Amazing Racers in the mix, because I think that would have been a lot more chaotic, maybe not as much show lines, because if all the shows were even, then it's truly a gamble. It's a free-for-all. No one's really going to be afraid to take a shot at a show because everyone has the numbers. We're taking a shot at an Amazing Race. There's no consequence for that. So I think that's why we were always looked at. But we had a really good working relationship with Survivor, at least during my time there. We kind of linked up with Survivor pretty early on. And so I felt very protected by Survivor more than anyone else at that point, just because Tyson had won two of the dailies where I was able to build some sort of working relationship with him to solidify a connection with Tyson, who seemed to be in power quite a bit.
Okay. And speaking of Survivor, Tasha, you being from Survivor and you in the Survivor Alliance, I've watched the show. I'm a huge fan of Survivor, and I know with Survivor, you do form alliances, but people lie, steal, cheat on that show. And I'm hearing people say, oh, Survivor, we're strong. We're a tight group alliance. During your time in that house, was that really the case? Were you guys really strong, or was there at least someone in that alliance where you felt like, you know what, I don't know if I can trust them. I'm going to go along with it just to save face, but I'm keeping my eye out for them?
Yeah, I would say, well, we definitely were Survivor strong plus Amazing Race. But we were holding true to that because no one wanted to be the first one to rock the boat, because you knew once you put another Survivor into elimination, like it was it. All the guns were going to be pointed towards you. So I really believe we were staying Survivor strong. However, as you could see, Tyson had a relationship with Angela. Kylan and Sarah started forming a relationship. And like we all had relationships outside of our shows because of the algorithm. So it forced you to have a plan B, C, and D outside of your show, which I think was so great about it. And it was easy because what I say, like typically on a show, there are going to be 4 or 5 people that you just don't vibe with. You're just like, oh, they gotta go. But on the challenge, legit, everybody was a good person, and you get a chance to spend time with them, talk to them, and get to know them personally. And so you're building these genuine relationships while you're playing the game, and it would manifest itself in a way like, oh my gosh, you're my partner. And we've just been talking for the last 2 days, like just building a relationship. And so it was the challenge of the challenge is everybody was like good people. And so you hated to go against anyone, which was the conundrum, I think, for this season, because everybody was awesome. And I'm not.
Yeah, and I believe you when you say that, because I remember watching, these past couple of episodes, and whenever the algorithm would choose people and we would see the reaction,
yes,
for the most part, everyone looks really happy.
Yes, and that was a real thing. Like, I mean, Cachet and Tiffany kind of had a little tiff with Cinco being in the middle, but like that's over a guy. I can understand.
Yeah. Like everyone's hugging and giving high fives. I'm like, oh, this is a different challenge. I kind of like it.
I know, I loved it. And on the challenge, there's a lot of downtime. So when you think about you're just hanging out with your peeps, that's what it felt like. Sometimes it didn't even feel like you were in a game. You were just hanging out with a group of beautiful, good people.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I want to get to the daily challenge. And this question is for either of you or both of you. What do you think happened that made you guys become the people to lose the challenge and go straight into elimination?
Yeah, well, I first want to start off by saying Tasha and I were actually really crushing the challenge up until our snafu. We were never as far behind as I think the show showed. We actually were probably middle of the pack or the upper half, but everyone was kind of starting the same spots at the same time because everyone just kind of found their rhythm. Unfortunately, with the weight situation, it all really boiled down to communication. In the moment, of course, we were like, what happened? But then watching it back, seeing what happened, it was 100% communication. You see Alyssa and Tyson, as well as Xavier and Kayla, really taking their time with the weight. I clipped it on too fast. Tasha's like, do you have it? Are you good? And I said, yes. But I, instead of saying waiting and working with Tasha to make sure it was adjusted right for her, I sort of just let go and continued on. And that's unfortunately what happened, was communication and speed for me.
Yeah, okay. Like James, he's a runner. So in terms of endurance, like that was not a problem. I was a cheerleader. Nah, the balancing part, no, this was an easy challenge. I think
And a bodybuilder at that,
like
Tasha.
10 pounds, I can lift that with probably like a finger. It wasn't the toughness of the challenge. I think it was just bad communication. He's just trying to move on to the next step. I'm just like, here we go, we're ready. And just like that, bag, I didn't even fall. The bag touched the mat, and that was it. And so I think had we communicated more. And one thing I would say about the challenge, when it's time to do the challenge, like you go, there's no strategy. Like on Survivor, Jeff says, "I'll give you a moment to strategize." You don't have that on the challenge. It's like you're going. And so maybe if we had if you had some time to really talk about, okay, this is how we're going to do it, then it would have been a different outcome. But you know what? Everything happens for a reason. And if I was going to go out, I'm glad to go out with James, who's so positive and nurturing, because you can like literally get depressed after you come off of a show, right? You're like depressed. But I could always call James and like, hey, how you doing today? Like, this is how I'm feeling. So to be out with James and to have a continuous relationship, even now we call each other and we check in. I wouldn't have wanted to go out with anybody other than James.
Agreed. I mean, obviously we felt defeated in the moment and we let ourselves feel that defeat, but we quickly were able to bounce back because we were each other's cheerleaders. We really hyped each other up and we're like, what's the game plan? What can we do to make sure we can come back from elimination together? So we really worked well and we kind of understood where we were in the game socially and just we really wanted to stay and compete. So I'm really happy that I at least had Tasha as a partner before, our demise.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because seeing you two work together, you two worked very, very well together, and Tasha, like you said, everything happens for a reason. And I really hope I see both of you next season because you both were amazing. You both were very uplifting. And you both, even during elimination, you both stayed calm, cool, and collected. And I love that. Before we talk about elimination, I want to talk about deliberation. And everyone's talking about this on Twitter, James, about how you wanted to send one of your buddies from The Amazing Race. And this is where it gets confusing because you didn't actually say, I want to send him into elimination, but there was conversation about that. Do you want to clear that up? Because I saw your tweets and you said you did want to clear it up.
Yeah, I think, okay, for starters, let's talk about like when you go into a deliberation, depending on who or what show is really kind of in power, you kind of already know who the options are going to be. So Tasha and I, knowing that Kylan and Angela, two big brothers, won, we knew who the options were going to be. Ben and Kira, not big brother, but Kira and Angela had a really close relationship. Even before the show, they knew each other. And then you have Dom and Cash, you have Justine and Leo, and then Cinco and Sarah. We're not going to go against Cinco and Sarah. No. That wasn't the vibe we were feeling. And I don't think based on what Kylan and Angela's strategies were of, keeping the strong, they weren't going to throw Cinco and Sarah in either. So it really came down to Dom and Cache or Leo and Justine. You see Justine and Leo talking. Justine's head is in the game. She realizes that, yes, we could be an option. Leo also saying, I don't think James would ever say, I want to go against Leo. And he's right. Those words never once came out of my mouth. I never wanted to go against Leo, but recognized at the end of the day, we're not in control. We don't have the say. And Justine and Leo are an option. So when I talked to Leo, I was just trying to give him the heads up, like you are an option. And I even said to him, I would prefer not to go against you, but he's not hearing that. He's hearing, oh my God, I'm an option. And James being in elimination has a say. And it sounds like he wants to go against me. That wasn't the case at all. Obviously, I would prefer not to go against him or Dom because we actually, Survivor and Race, had a pretty good working relationship at this point. So it was going to be a loss for Tasha or I. But I also, when I was talking with Dom, wanted Dom to stop thinking he was going in. There was a benefit to whatever team's thrown into elimination, not knowing that they're going in. You saw it with Giovanni and Sally. You saw it with Tiffany and Cashel. blindsided, completely thrown for a loop, and they're just kind of disoriented that they don't really go into the arena with a plan or working together. So I wanted Dom to start having doubts that he was going in. So I'm like, yeah, I want to go against Leo and Justine. So he would stop thinking it was him. But he was so hell-bent on it. He was practically asking to go into elimination that was out the window. But I can let Tasha pick up from here, where there was actually a third option in play that you don't see.
Yeah. And so what we talked to Kylan and Angela about was David and Shannon, because their big brother wasn't as tight as people thought they were. And you can kind of see it coming out with Alyssa and Derek, like they felt some type of way about their season on Big Brother. So we felt that there was a crack there. And if we could get Angela and Kai to like put David in, and we love Shannon, like Shannon is amazing. We just didn't want to lose an amazing racer or a survivor. So we felt the best option really for us was David and Shannon.
And like you saw Tyson plant that seed at the beginning of the episode with Angela. He mentions David and Shannon. And then when we were actually in deliberation, when Angela and Kylan presented David and Shannon's name to us, we were like, oh, the door's sliding open where we see an opportunity to hopefully run through, but it just didn't get the traction we had hoped for. And so we just kind of had to accept defeat, that at the end of the day, we're going to go against one of our own, and it's going to be a loss no matter how you look at it. But I think the gamers in Tasha and I also recognize that if we happen to go against Leo and Justine, if that's ultimately what Kylan and Angela wanted, there's a benefit because the money is also at play. That's part of the game. And if we were to win against them, I would have had banked enough for me to be qualified for a final. And that would make more money for Tasha overall. So we understood either way it was a loss. And it was just unfortunate how the cards fell.
Yeah, it definitely was unfortunate. But I do love how you were thinking outside the box. So you both were thinking outside the box. And you were thinking about the money also, because if you do win, you get the money. Last question, you guys. Elimination. If there was one thing you can do differently, what would you do?
Well, James already knows because I bring it up to him all the time. Like, I feel like I should have been in the water because I'm 5'3". We had no idea like how thick those pieces were and how tall the structure would be. And James, I call him supermodel tall. He's so tall. And so he could have just threw those pieces up there like nothing. But like I said, on the challenge, once it's time to go, it's time to go. You have very little time to kind of strategize. So looking back on it, I wish I would have gone in the water and James did the tower, but we both of the mindset that everything happens for a reason. So it played out the way it was supposed to. But that would be the one thing that I would change.
Okay.
Well, also, on the flip side of that, height could have come into play in the drain too. Like I am 6'1", and so I was able to stand on that drain, and you could see the water was pretty much up to here still on me, regardless. Where Tasha, if she had stayed on the drain, the water probably would have gotten a lot lower because she would have to keep coming up for breath. So either way, height was definitely at play. It's just unfortunate that it was, luck was not on our side, and it made for an exciting elimination. We had no idea how close it actually was. I remember seeing the drain going and I was thinking, what is Dom doing? But you see the water at the line the moment Cash called check. And if her tower had fallen, we would have won. It could have just been a completely different game at that point, but it is what it is. Like Tasha said, things happen for a reason.
Yeah, I remember watching that. It was so close. It was so close to going down. I seriously thought he was going to lose, but I hope to see both next season, if there is going to be a next season. Huge fan of both of you. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. Can you give your fans your social media so they can follow you and stay up to date what you're doing?
Yeah, so you can follow me at Miss Foxy Tasha.
And then I'm on Twitter at James Wallington, and then my Instagram is at Where's Wallington.
Awesome. And I'm Benny Adams. You guys can follow me on all social media at Benny J Adams, James, and Tasha. So great talking to you guys, and I hope you all have a great day. And I'll see you guys later.
Thanks, Benny.
Thanks, Benny.